Tibetan Buddhism, a profound spiritual tradition with roots stretching back centuries, is renowned for its rich tapestry of mystical stories, sacred rituals, and teachings aimed at guiding sentient beings toward enlightenment. Among its many remarkable features, the Tulku system stands out as a unique practice that bridges the metaphysical and the tangible, embodying the belief in reincarnation and the conscious continuation of spiritual leadership. The Tulku tradition, a cornerstone of Tibetan Buddhist culture, reflects the deeply intertwined nature of spirituality and daily life. The term Tulku refers to a reincarnated Lama, believed to have consciously chosen to return to the earthly realm to continue guiding disciples and upholding the teachings of the Dharma. This belief, rooted in the doctrine of rebirth, underscores a fundamental tenet of Tibetan Buddhism: the idea that enlightened beings, motivated by boundless compassion, transcend the cycle of samsara to serve others. A quintessential example of the Tulku tradition is the celebrated discovery and recognition of the 14th Dalai Lama Tenzin Gyatso. This process began with the passing of the 13th Dalai Lama in 1933, prompting a meticulous search for his reincarnation. Guided by visions, omens, and spiritual signs, search parties set out on an extraordinary journey to locate the child who would embody the spiritual essence of the previous Dalai Lama. The discovery of Tenzin Gyatso in the small village of Taktser, marked by his precocious recognition of sacred artifacts and lamas from his past life, became a legendary tale that epitomizes the mystical depth of the Tulku system. Beyond the Dalai Lama lineage, countless Tulkus have contributed to the preservation and dissemination of Tibetan Buddhism's rich spiritual heritage. These individuals, spanning various monastic schools and traditions, exemplify the principle of altruistic service, dedicating their lives to the welfare of all beings. The rigorous training that Tulkus undergo, encompassing philosophy, meditation, and ritual practice, ensures that they are well equipped to fulfill their spiritual responsibilities. Mystical stories associated with the Tulku tradition abound, enriching the narrative of Tibetan Buddhism with profound symbolism and wonder. For instance, the accounts of prophetic dreams and celestial phenomena preceding the identification of Tulkus reinforce the belief that these reincarnations are guided by divine forces. These tales not only inspire faith among practitioners, but also offer a window into the Tibetan worldview, where the sacred and mundane coexist seamlessly. In understanding the Tulku tradition, one also encounters the intricate ceremonies and rituals associated with their enthronement. These elaborate events serve as both a spiritual affirmation and a public declaration of the Tulku's role within the community. Through chanting, offerings, and blessings, these ceremonies symbolize the continuity of wisdom and compassion across generations. The Tulku tradition thus represents a fascinating synthesis of mysticism, philosophy, and cultural practice. It exemplifies how Tibetan Buddhism weaves together profound spiritual insights with accessible narratives that resonate deeply with the human experience. By exploring these stories and processes, we not only gain a deeper appreciation of Tibetan Buddhism, but also glimpse the universal quest for meaning, guidance, and enlightenment that transcends cultural and temporal boundaries. Tulku tradition, the essence of reincarnation. The Tulku system stands as a cornerstone of Tibetan Buddhism, embodying the belief that enlightened beings consciously reincarnate to continue their spiritual mission. Unlike ordinary rebirth, which is influenced by the reactive cycle of karma, Tulkus are understood to reincarnate as deliberate acts of bodhisattva compassion. These beings, through their conscious rebirth, preserve the teachings of the Dharma and provide guidance to practitioners on their spiritual paths. Their existence underscores the deeply altruistic nature of Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, emphasizing that spiritual progress is not only an individual pursuit, but a collective endeavor aimed at benefiting all sentient beings. Tulkus are revered as extraordinary individuals who transcend the ordinary patterns of rebirth. They are believed to be manifestations of advanced beings who voluntarily choose to return to the human realm, motivated by vows to aid others. Their lives serve as living embodiments of compassion, selflessness, and wisdom. Beyond their spiritual leadership, tulkus inspire devotion and foster a sense of continuity within Buddhist communities, acting as anchors of stability in times of change. Through their teachings and leadership, they ensure that sacred traditions and esoteric knowledge are preserved and transmitted across generations. When people experience burnout, physical and mental health issues, and a lack of direction, the collective will of the people revives. The process of identifying a tulku is a profound and sacred undertaking, reflecting the unique blend of mysticism and ritual precision that defines Tibetan Buddhism. The search often begins with prophetic dreams experienced by senior monks, particularly those who were closely connected to the deceased Lama. These dreams are considered divine guidance, offering symbolic clues about the location, family, or physical traits of the reincarnation. Interpreting these dreams requires deep spiritual insight and an intimate connection with the sacred. Once initial signs are identified, sacred divination practices are employed to confirm the leads. Methods such as the Mo technique, involving the casting of dice or the interpretation of patterns, and mirror gazing, where visions are sought in reflective surfaces, play a crucial role in this stage of the search. These practices highlight the harmonious integration of mystical and practical approaches within Tibetan spirituality, ensuring that the process remains deeply rooted in ritual and reverence. Natural phenomena are also believed to play a guiding role in the identification of tulkus. Unusual occurrences such as rainbows appearing on clear days, extraordinary animal behavior, or unique cloud formations are interpreted as divine signs pointing toward the reincarnation. These phenomena underscore the Tibetan Buddhist view of the universe as a responsive and interconnected entity, where the natural and spiritual realms are intimately linked. The final and most well-known step in the search process is the verification of the tulku through a series of tests. Children believed to be reincarnations are presented with objects that belonged to the previous Lama, alongside similar items with no connection to their past life. Their ability to correctly identify these sacred objects, often accompanied by spontaneous recognition of individuals or places associated with their former life, is seen as definitive proof of their identity. This moment is both deeply mystical and profoundly human, illustrating the continuity of consciousness and memory across lifetimes. The tulku tradition is more than a mystical practice. It is a profound affirmation of the Buddhist belief in the cyclical nature of existence and the enduring commitment of enlightened beings to the well-being of all. The intricate search process not only reflects the interconnectedness of spiritual and daily life, but also reinforces the faith of the Buddhist community. Through the tulku system, the teachings of the Dharma continue to illuminate the path for generations, ensuring that the wisdom and compassion of past masters remain a guiding light for the present and future. The discovery of the 14th Dalai Lama, a case study in mysticism. The discovery of Tenzin Gyatso, the 14th Dalai Lama, is one of the most extraordinary and emblematic examples of the tulku system in Tibetan Buddhism. This sacred process, blending mysticism, tradition, and ritual, underscores the profound faith and spiritual governance at the heart of Tibetan culture. Following the death of the 13th Dalai Lama in 1933, senior monks began their quest to locate his reincarnation, guided by divine signs and ancient practices. The search commenced with careful observation of natural phenomena believed to carry messages from the spiritual realm. Shortly after the passing of the 13th Dalai Lama, unusual occurrences were reported. Monks witnessed remarkable cloud formations shaped like lotuses and stupas, symbols of spiritual purity and enlightenment. These clouds were seen as omens, pointing toward the direction of the reincarnation. Perhaps the most striking event was the inexplicable rotation of a sacred stupa near the Dalai Lama's residence. This revered structure turned to face the northeast, a direction that would soon gain significance in the search for the new spiritual leader. To confirm these signs, senior monks turned to divination, an essential component of Tibetan Buddhist tradition. Using sacred tools and astrological charts, they sought guidance on the location of the reincarnation. The results consistently pointed to the northeastern region of Tibet, specifically Amdo, providing a clear path for the monastic search party to follow. These revelations, both mystical and methodical, fueled the determination of the monks as they embarked on their journey. The search party's travels eventually brought them to the remote village of Taktser in Ando, now part of modern-day Qinghai, China. There they encountered a young boy named Lamo Dandup, whose presence immediately captivated them. Despite being only 2 years old, the boy exuded a sense of wisdom and spiritual gravitas far beyond his years. His demeanor and natural confidence, coupled with an unexplainable depth of insight, suggested that he was no ordinary child. The monks observed him closely, noting his behavior and interactions, which seemed to affirm their belief that he was the reincarnation of the 13th Dalai Lama. To confirm this conviction, the monks administered a series of tests, a critical step in the Tulku identification process. These tests involved presenting the boy with objects that had belonged to the 13th Dalai Lama, such as prayer beads and ritual instruments, alongside similar items with no connection to the previous Lama. In a moment of profound significance, Lamo Dandup unerringly selected the authentic objects, displaying an intimate familiarity with them that defied explanation. This recognition, coupled with his calm and self-assured demeanor, left no doubt in the minds of the monks. At just 2 years old, Lamo Dandup was formally recognized as the 14th Dalai Lama, marking the continuation of a sacred lineage that spanned centuries. His discovery was not only a spiritual triumph, but also a reaffirmation of the intricate and deeply rooted traditions that define Tibetan Buddhism. This remarkable process, guided by divine signs and human dedication, ensured the preservation of spiritual leadership and the enduring legacy of the Dalai Lama. Through this sacred act, Tibetan Buddhism once again demonstrated its unique ability to bridge the realms of the mystical and the tangible, keeping alive the profound teachings that inspire countless practitioners worldwide. Symbolism and broader context of the Tulku tradition. The Tulku tradition holds profound symbolic and philosophical significance within Tibetan Buddhism, extending far beyond the individual narratives of reincarnated lamas. It encapsulates a broader framework that intertwines spiritual ideals with institutional and cultural structures, fulfilling essential roles in both the metaphysical and communal realms. This tradition is a vivid representation of how Tibetan Buddhism bridges timeless spiritual wisdom with the practical needs of maintaining cultural and social cohesion. At its spiritual core, the Tulku tradition embodies the principle of continuity, ensuring that the wisdom of Tibetan Buddhist lineages remains unbroken across generations. Reincarnated lamas are revered as custodians of their predecessors' teachings and missions. Their rebirth is seen as a deliberate act of spiritual service, undertaking to preserve and disseminate the Dharma. This continuity of wisdom reinforces the idea that enlightenment is not bound by the limits of a single lifetime. Through their teachings, Tulkus embody the concept of impermanence, while demonstrating the enduring nature of spiritual truths. Tulkus also serve as living symbols of bodhisattva compassion, one of the highest ideals in Buddhism. The choice to reincarnate, rather than seeking final liberation from the cycle of samsara, reflects their profound commitment to aiding sentient beings. This selfless act underscores the Tulkus' prioritization of the spiritual growth and well-being of others. Their existence inspires practitioners to embrace compassion, reminding them of their interconnectedness and the collective nature of spiritual progress. Beyond its spiritual dimensions, the Tulku tradition plays a critical role in the cultural and political fabric of Tibetan society. Historically, it has provided stability and continuity in leadership for Tibetan monasteries and the communities they serve. The identification and enthronement of Tulkus ensure that institutional roles remain filled, even amidst times of upheaval or transition. This system has allowed monasteries to maintain their influence as centers of learning, spirituality, and governance, preserving their integrity and purpose across centuries. In the modern era, particularly in the context of Tibetan exile, the Tulku tradition has taken on even greater cultural and symbolic significance. For a displaced people striving to preserve their heritage, the Tulkus have become powerful symbols of resilience and identity. They represent the endurance of Tibetan cultural and spiritual values in the face of external pressures and the challenges of diaspora. Their presence reassures the community of the continuity of their traditions and offers hope for the preservation of their unique way of life. Through its intricate interplay of spiritual ideals, institutional functionality, and cultural significance, the Tulku tradition exemplifies the depth and adaptability of Tibetan Buddhism. It stands as a testament to the enduring relevance of these practices, ensuring that the wisdom of the past remains alive and accessible in the present, while simultaneously anchoring Tibetan communities in their identity and shared purpose. In this way, the Tulku tradition not only enriches the spiritual lives of individuals, but also strengthens the collective fabric of Tibetan society. Challenges in the modern era. The Tulku system, while deeply revered and central to Tibetan Buddhism, faces significant challenges in the modern era. These challenges arise from both political tensions and the broader shifts in a rapidly globalizing and increasingly skeptical world. Despite its profound spiritual significance, the Tulku tradition must navigate these complexities to maintain its relevance and authenticity. One of the most pressing issues stems from political interference, particularly from the Chinese government. The selection of the 15th Dalai Lama has become a deeply contentious topic, with China asserting its authority over the recognition process. This effort is part of a broader strategy to undermine Tibetan cultural and religious autonomy. By seeking to control the identification of future Dalai Lamas, China aims to weaken the spiritual and political influence of the Tibetan leadership, both within Tibet and among the global diaspora. This struggle over the future of the Dalai Lama lineage represents not only a challenge to the Tulku tradition, but also a broader assault on Tibetan identity and self-determination. The case of the Panchen Lama further highlights the fraught intersection of politics and spirituality. Getun Choki Nyima, recognized by the Dalai Lama as the 11th Panchen Lama, disappeared in 1995 after being detained by Chinese authorities. His whereabouts remain unknown, and a state-approved Panchen Lama was installed in his place. This controversy underscores the extent to which the Tulku system has become a political battleground, with Beijing leveraging its influence to reshape Tibetan Buddhism according to its interests. The politicization of these sacred processes not only disrupts traditional practices, but also erodes trust among Tibetan Buddhists and international observers. Beyond political tensions, the Tulku system faces challenges from a world increasingly shaped by scientific inquiry and secular values. Central to the Tulku tradition are mystical concepts such as reincarnation and divination, which have long been integral to Tibetan Buddhism. However, these beliefs often face skepticism from those who view them as incompatible with empirical evidence and modern scientific understanding. Debates about the validity of reincarnation have prompted some to call for a reinterpretation of these practices, raising questions about how Tibetan Buddhism can remain faithful to its roots while addressing contemporary sensibilities. Globalization further complicates these dynamics. As Tibetan Buddhism gains a foothold internationally, it must balance traditional practices with the values and expectations of diverse audiences. While the global spread of Tibetan Buddhism has introduced its teachings to millions, it has also exposed the tradition to external influences that can dilute or alter its core principles. Maintaining the integrity of the Tulku system in an era of cross-cultural exchange requires careful navigation, ensuring that its profound spiritual essence is not lost amid efforts to make it accessible to a broader audience. Quote, "These challenges, though formidable, also present opportunities for introspection and renewal within the Tulku system. By addressing political interference, engaging with modern scientific discourse, and adapting to a globalized world, Tibetan Buddhism can reaffirm the relevance of the Tulku tradition while safeguarding its spiritual and cultural heritage. In doing so, it not only ensures the survival of this ancient practice, but also reinforces its enduring message of compassion, wisdom, and interconnectedness in an ever-changing world. Conclusion: a tradition rooted in mysticism and resilience. The Tulku system stands as a testament to the profound mysticism and resilience embedded within Tibetan Buddhism. It encapsulates a worldview where spiritual wisdom is not confined to a single lifetime, but transcends the boundaries of birth and death, offering a living example of the interconnectedness of all beings. This intricate tradition, with its deep roots in reincarnation and sacred rituals, serves as a bridge between the metaphysical and the tangible, blending timeless spiritual truths with practical guidance for the Tibetan community and beyond. The discovery of the 14th Dalai Lama remains a striking illustration of the Tulku system's enduring significance. The meticulous process of identifying and confirming his reincarnation through visions, divinations, and sacred tests embodies the fusion of faith, ritual, and wisdom that defines Tibetan Buddhism. Beyond its mystical aspects, this discovery conveys a powerful message of compassion and enlightenment, reminding the world of the spiritual responsibilities undertaken by those who choose to reincarnate for the benefit of others. The Dalai Lama's life and teachings exemplify the Tulku tradition's capacity to adapt to changing times while remaining steadfast in its core values. In the face of modern challenges, including political interference and the skepticism of an increasingly secular world, the Tulku tradition continues to serve as a beacon of hope and continuity. It endures not only as a religious practice, but also as a symbol of cultural identity and spiritual resilience for the Tibetan people. By safeguarding this heritage, Tibetan Buddhism preserves its profound teachings, ensuring that the Dharma remains accessible and relevant to future generations. The Tulku system inspires countless practitioners and admirers around the globe, offering a timeless reminder that compassion, wisdom, and interconnectedness lie at the heart of human existence. As the world becomes more interconnected, the Tulku tradition takes on new dimensions, reaching audiences far beyond the borders of Tibet. It serves as both a spiritual anchor for those rooted in its lineage and an inspiration for individuals seeking meaning in an increasingly complex world. The ability of this tradition to evolve while preserving its mystical essence demonstrates its extraordinary resilience and relevance. Through its rituals, teachings, and the living examples of its tulkus, Tibetan Buddhism continues to illuminate paths toward enlightenment, uniting the ancient with the modern in a shared journey toward compassion and wisdom.